Oh, when are the Bears going to start? Let's look forward to Mark Trestman's Bears. No, let's not. Never again. So yeah, we don't have to look forward to Bears football. But I will talk about Bears football because the draft's coming up and the Bears are having a pretty high pick at number 11. And who knows what can happen. Maybe they get a quarterback. Maybe Jay Cutler's time's out. He's done. See you later, Cutler. You're garbage. That's a Meatball Bears fan. I am not a Meatball Bears fan, or at least I don't consider myself one, because I think Cutler is the greatest quarterback the Bears have ever had. Now, I watched the 30 for 30 of the Bears 85 season, and Jim McMahon did some insane things and took a ton of punishment, like unbelievable amount of punishment. I still consider Cutler better, and I have my reasons, and I think you should agree with me that Cutler is the Bears' best quarterback ever, because he is. If you look at the raw numbers and everything he's done, yes, he had. We don't have to get into the Cutler conversation, but the quarterback is an option because you know what? That's an important part of this depth chart. You have David Fales as your backup right now, so unless you sign a backup, you don't have anyone. And you know what? I'm sick of the Jason Campbells, sick of the Jimmy Clausens. Let me get a young guy to develop, and I'm not talking about David Fales. So maybe they invest in a quarterback later in the rounds in the second or third, but in the first. Yeah, glaring position of need. Inside linebacker. Got to get the inside linebacker. You got to fill it up because Christian Jones ain't going to cut it. Shea McClellan ain't going to cut it. Jonathan Anderson is okay. He ain't going to cut it. Let me get somebody who knows what he's doing. And I'm interested to see what Ryan Pace does in the draft this year. They could trade down even. They have 9 picks this year, and that's more than they've had in recent memory. So this Bears team is in the right direction. I very much am pleased with year one of the new transition period with John Fox and Ryan Pace. Ryan Pace hit last year on a lot of draft picks. Adrian Amos, Ronas Grasu. I of course, missing guys, but you know what I mean? You know, you look at that draft, that's very good. Yeah, Kevin White was hurt all season, but hey, essentially, you're getting 10 draft picks this year because Kevin White is going to be a rookie in his first season, and you're going to combine that with Jeffrey. So, but yeah, the glaring need is on defense. You got to build that defense from the ground up, essentially, because that Super Bowl, Tampa 2, Lovie Smith style defensive group is gone, long gone. There's nobody left. So. Yeah, we're 10 years later, but still, they had a lot of guys still on the Bears in 2010, even in 2011, 2012. So I'm very curious to see who the Bears decide to choose at 11 or if they decide to trade. And I want to say that people are saying, yeah, this is going to be a long process for the Bears to be good again. They almost made the playoffs last year. They had a chance to make the playoffs. You beat a couple teams that were not even very good. I'm talking, the Vikings in the early... Sorry, Ricky. I'm knocking on your Vikings. Earlier in the year, they should have beat them. Straight up. They blew that game. They were up 10 in the fourth quarter, and they blew it up. They just blew it. Totally. Completely blew it because their defense just didn't have any talent. You look at the 49ers game. Missed field goal. Robbie Gould, who's probably going to be gone. I don't want his $9 million or whatever, how much money he's owed for 2016, 2017. Nah. Get out of here. You're a kicker. Make your kicks. You can't make kicks anymore. Goodbye. Especially when you're making that much money. Goodbye. Thank you for all your contributions, but goodbye. And you look at the Redskins game, a team that you probably could have beat, but you laid an egg, especially after that deflating loss to San Francisco. You laid an egg. And you look at the Super Bowl champion Denver Broncos. They lost by 2 points. They had a chance to win. And we can go on and on and on and on about the what-ifs of this season. But the fact of the matter is, 6-10, could have been 10-6, could have been in the playoffs. Never know. Stuff goes their way, but it wasn't their year. They just weren't loaded with talent. What I'm saying is it really that crazy to think that they can't make the playoffs next year? Because I think personally, I'm going to be really pissed off if they don't make the playoffs. John Fox is a good coach. He knows how to get guys in their positions. Besides the in-game part of it, yeah, he's probably subpar there. But John Fox knows what he's doing behind the scenes. He knows how to work with the coaching staff. He knows how to run a practice. He's not in the film room with his back turned to his players while they're sitting pairs like in kindergarten. Offensive, defensive player next week. Give me a, Tressman. What was that? John Fox knows what he's doing. Vic Fangio knows what he's doing. They lost their offensive coordinator. But it's Dowell Loggins time, and this isn't a system that just disappears and starts from scratch for Cutler has to learn again, which would be, his seventh new system that he has to learn? Nah, I mean, what is this, his sixth offensive coordinator in 8 years? Here as a Bear? 9 years as a Bear? And you're telling me, I think, 7 years? 8? You get it. He's been here a while, and he's had a lot of offensive coordinators and a lot of head coaches in terms of number of head coaches. 3? That doesn't happen unless you're the Browns. So I think the Bears are going to surprise some people, especially because they have a lot of cap space this year and this offseason that they can play around with. You can invest a lot of money defensively in guys who are 26, 27 years old. Do it. They have the luxury to do it. If you cut a specific, couple guys like Gold or maybe Bennett, which I don't want them to cut Bennett, despite the obvious reason that he's crazy and that he's eating money, he's still a very viable option, very, very good talent at tight end. You never know what you're going to be able to get with Zach Miller, who's injured, and he's asking for a ton of money. So if they come to an agreement, that's great because he did some great things last year, but you never know with him. He's 31. So they have a lot of space to work with going into the offseason this year, and it starts with the draft. See how they manage their picks. So it remains to be seen until they hit the field, but it's the strategy that they go about it is what I'm very curious to see about and how they fill the roster. And then they make signings to guys that they have already, as well as looking outside the organization and bringing in top talent, which they can do. This team can be in the mix next year. Don't dismiss them. I'm not talking 8-8 good. They could, looking at their schedule, and yes, it's super early, they got teams that they can beat. They could go 10-6. 10-6 can make a playoffs next year. Maybe a wild card. And I don't think that's out of reach. I think year 2 of this transition process, it's not unrealistic to think that this Bears team can make the playoffs, and I'm counting on it. As a crazy, optimistic Bears fan, I am counting on them to make the playoffs next year. And with that, I want to thank all of you for listening and following and putting up with me for almost 50 minutes, talk about Chicago sports. It's really fun to do. I can't wait to move forward with this Behind the Pen podcast with the folks here at MVP Podcast. One special thank you to Ricky Woodbury again for putting it all together, allowing me to do this. Thank you all for listening. This has been a presentation of MVP Podcasts. Please follow along to my next one. You've been listening to Behind the Pen with Mike Rankin, and he is signing off. Thank you very much.
Thank you for listening to this MVP Podcast. Follow us on Twitter at Most Valuable Pod for more great podcasts.